Listen to this, Jesse.
Yeah.
She just sold her house, and she's like, what if I pay you for 6 months up front?
Wow.
Am I candid camera? Yes.
Camera. It's America's Funniest Videos.
Yeah, really. So I looked at my husband, and she was on speakerphone. I was like, yes, I think that would work out just fine. Would you like to use Zelle right now?
Cash or check card? Which would you take?
Exactly. And he's like, oh, and by the way, is it cool that we have 3 cats? My husband and I are like,
just to get one property is hard. To get 2 properties could be harder, and to get 3 could be difficult. But I think that's a rookie mindset. And I want to dive into that because it's not actually as hard as people think. Emily, I think this has been almost like an out-of-state investing 101 kind of conversation that we had today. This is something good. If you're going to take anything out of this episode, that right there is golden. Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the JV Pod. I am super freaking pumped today, and I'm pumped for a couple reasons. First off, I'm back from Las Vegas, Nevada, which was a massive trip on its own because Delta decided to cancel flights. And I'm also super stoked because we have Emily, Miss Emily Hammer, who has been a student for quite some time, and she has a pretty unique story. Not only that, but what I really love is that you were a travel nurse, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I've been so excited about your journey over the last, how long have you been with us? 6 months now? Maybe a little bit longer than that?
I've been with us since, let's see, it was pretty much Halloween. So,
Halloween.
Yeah.
A little bit longer than that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you're coming up on like 9-10 months. But it's been awesome watching you grow in the space, along with like a lot of the classmates that came in around the same time. I think Christine was in on there.
Yeah.
And you're one of the standout students that I feel like I've seen just kind of really grow. And, now you're doing a book club with us and all this stuff. So Emily, it is awesome to have you on here. Do you want to tell the folks that are listening right now a little bit about yourself real quick before we dive into this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came into the real estate world just kind of by happenstance, and I was doing midterm rentals, and I was experiencing it even before I knew it was a thing. So I was a travel nurse. I went to University of Massachusetts and decided to do nursing, and then worked for 2 years and said, there's this awesome travel nurse thing. I'm going to do it. And was going to go with one of my girlfriends, and then she backed out, and the fear took over me, and I was like, I don't know if I could do it by myself. And then something kicked me in the pants, and I just ended up doing it. So did travel nursing all around the country for, it was about 4 years, 3 months here, 6 months there.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that a lot of people get into midterm rentals and their first thought is like, travel nursing, that's going to be that's the best and easiest thing to do and easiest thing to get into. And for those of you that are listening to this that don't know about midterm rentals, I'm assuming you do. It's basically renting your property for 30 days at a time. And travel nursing has always been kind of what most investors think is the easiest route to go. And it can be. But let's talk about you actually traveling and what the properties that you were staying in look like, and probably why you got into this thinking like, I could do way better than all these other people's properties I'm staying in. Let's dive into that for a minute.
Yeah, definitely. So I was doing this. I was just trying to think of the year. So it was 2000 and probably 7. So it was the heyday to 7, and then 4 years after that, it was the heyday of travel nursing. Like it was, travel nurses were making bank, and you could either go about it one of 2 ways. Your company would set you up, and they would just say, here's the list of properties, or you would find the places on your own. I did both. The places that I got through American Mobile at the time were decent. They were, and I went to great places too. So San Diego, and I went to Denver, all these places where they had it dialed in. But the places that I would get on my own to save a little bit of money, you show up at these places, you're like, wait, what? what is this? Like, who are these? Yeah. So they were, I don't think that anybody really had this midterm thing in mind, and they realized like there's this huge swath of people, nurses, that are looking for this. And we were in our 20s. Like, I didn't care about money. I was definitely not brought up to understand much about like saving. Why? I'm going to go out the 4 nights that I'm not working, or I'm going to go to, San Francisco. I was living in wherever, Oakland or whatever it was. I'm going to spend that money. So they saw like, ooh, there's opportunity here. And I definitely saw and didn't even realize, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together, that there was somebody behind these places that I was renting out. It was more like, I want a place to live. This looks good. How much money? Okay. That has since changed quite a bit.
Yeah. What do you think are, before we jump out of this subject real quick, because I know that so many people are always talking about, like, travel nurses are the greatest to have. And what kind of amenities do you remember? Like, can you go back to that time frame? Like, what were you looking for at the time? What was like some of your, amenities, or maybe distance to the hospital? Like, what were some important things that folks can think about if they're getting into midterm rentals specifically for travel nurses?
Yeah, definitely. So you always hear location. That is huge. So it's location closest to the hospital, sure, but more so being close to fun things. So if I knew that I was down the street from a stretch of restaurants, bars, fun places to go hang out, parks, places to get coffee, that was really important. Safety, I really don't think that I thought about that until I got to the area. I really don't. Like, as a 20-something-year-old person, is it close to, like, if you go to Google Maps, and at the time it wasn't Google Maps, but if you go look online to see what's around there. Yeah. MapQuest.
I remember that.
But if you go and you look what's around there, that would be fun for me, and location to public transportation, especially if you're in a city. So that was really important. As a travel nurse, I did nights. So I needed them to have a fan. I needed them to have blackout curtains. If I didn't have those things, I didn't even think at the time to ask. I would go and get them myself, or do the 20-something-year-old thing where I put a dark blanket over the window and live like a hobo. Yeah, exactly. But, I made it work. So you look for places that had those things. But honestly, at the time, if they didn't, it was like you made it happen yourself. And in this industry now, you realize going that extra step for somebody that's doing these jobs, or even somebody that needs this place for 4 months because of, whatever their situation is, makes that so much more memorable for somebody. And you're doing yourself such a favor, because those people are either going to tell their friends, they're going to extend, or they're on the other side of the spectrum, they're going to tell their friends and they're going to leave early, So it's like you shoot yourself in the foot, or you make yourself a really good situation.
Yeah, I've actually had when I first started doing this back in the day, I had travel nurses there was not very many properties, and I'd call people and talk to them, and they'd say, like, I'm in this crappy place, like I want to leave, where I'm actually trying to get out of my lease right now. It's not in the right place. It's not in the right area. It's not put together well. There's cockroaches around here.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. Like, people will put on like the most difficult or like the ugliest properties on the planet and expect them to do well. And that worked back then.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's such a different time. And you're putting on the book club for AirVenture in August, and one of the, you're putting together Will Guardia's book. What is that book called? Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yep.
And in that book, there's a lot of little details about going above and beyond for people, and how that's such an important piece of the puzzle. And I truly do believe that, especially now, that you have to think about the client, or whoever you're serving, or your tenant, whatever you want to call them. Because there's a lot of options now, and you gotta live up to that nature. It's hospitality.
It is. And it's so competitive. Right now it's so competitive. And at the time it wasn't, I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to upload it to Instagram or Facebook, because that didn't exist yet. I'm aging myself, but that's okay. Like, I'm okay to be the middle-aged poster child for you can do this. I really am, like, completely fine with it. But that wasn't happening at the time. But I will say that is happening now. And that is part of what gets people stuck is, yes, there's such a barrier, this perceived barrier to entry, but the only way to get over that perceived barrier to entry is to do it, and to realize what it is that people are going to complain about. And the whole thing that I have learned, and I have had rentals now since July of last year. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary of being a midterm rental host.
Woohoo.
1 year, July 29th. I have my original California property. We can get into this in a moment, but I have my original California property that I midterm rent. I have a duplex that I'm sitting in one side. I have a tenant over there, and I'm getting ready to purchase another that I'm making into a duplex of sorts in Colorado. 1 year. Yeah. And there is this perceived barrier to entry, and it is real. And the only way that you get beyond that is doing it and using your community.
Totally 100% agree to that. Yeah, I love the mindset around that, because I believe too that a lot of people get stuck, and we'll talk about your journey, maybe what it was like for you when you're initially starting. But I remember when I first listened to like Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets in like 2014. And I would sit there and I'd go into his webinars and I'd look at he'd show all the best markets. And I'm just like, man, where do I buy? Like, they're saying Tulsa, Oklahoma's a spot, and this is this, and this is that. And back in 2015 in Central California, you could buy a property for pretty cheap. But I was seeing that these are the top 5 trending places, like, or these are top 10, because Brandon used to really pull those up a lot of times and share where he was, where he was buying. And I would get stuck in the analysis paralysis stuff. So let's lead into this now, because you're going in a year, and I like this because you are, just to get one property is hard. To get 2 properties could be harder, and to get 3 could be difficult. But I think that's a rookie mindset. And I want to dive into that because it's not actually as hard as people think. Yes, it can be difficult, but there's so many different ways of making things happen. So let's dive into the acquisition of your first property, which is the one in Southern California. Let's talk about that, Emily.
So the one in Southern California was the home that we lived in for 7 years prior. And I was working a great job. So I'm a nurse by training, as you know, and then I moved over into the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm now in this pharmaceutical industry and making good money, but my husband and I don't have children. And I was thinking, what am I going to do here? And this is great. Like, we're living a great life, but the whole purpose of like, what's next? What does my retirement look like? When do I want this retirement? Started to kick in. So I had a really good friend who had a Palm Springs house. She had her original house, and then she got a Palm Springs house. And she's like, I Airbnb it. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. I was like, wait, what? How do you do that? Yeah. What? Yeah. And it seems like this huge hill to climb. And then she was kind of breaking it down for me. She's like, you can do this too. I'm like, I don't know. But then started listening to Bigger Pockets and realized listening to people's stories, and they're just people. They put their pants on 1 foot at a time, like it just happens. So along the same time, our company had this reduction in force, which corporate people will know, RIF, they call it. And they let whatever percentage of the company go. My boss, who's in his 60s, was let go. 2 kids in college.
Wow.
Just let go. Went to work on Monday morning. Everything was fine. Monday afternoon, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Little bit of severance, a couple months severance, but hey, 60-year-old white guy, excuse me, but it's true. 60-year-old white guy, go ahead and try to find another job while you have 2 kids that are trying to go through college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, that was a little kick in the pants of like, all right, I know real estate can do this for me. I also know that it scares the crap out of me. So I have a personal development background, and I definitely credit my old boss, the one that was let go, for that. He started me on that journey to say like, okay, like maybe go a little deeper and see what's in there. And I heard about the rookie boot camp, 90 days to your first rental. And I was like, okay, if I have this property that I'm in, that I have great equity on because it's in Southern California, a mile from the beach, what if we looked at other markets? I travel to North Carolina for work. What about North Carolina? And I started looking into the Raleigh area. Raleigh has tons of duplexes. I loved the idea of house hacking. It was primed for house hacking. So I looked into the duplex. And then as soon as I was in that 90 days to the first rental, I was on those calls. I was raising my hand. My camera was on, like engaged. Like I wanted it.
You were in it. Yes.
I was in it. Like I wanted it. And just went down a couple different rabbit holes. I was looking at Montana for a while, looking all over the place because my husband and I love adventure. And just the North Carolina thing started to sink its teeth into me. So I was like, my husband's a photographer. I said, babe. And he's like, oh boy, what? It's like, what do you think if we do a little adventure and we move to North Carolina and we house hack? And I laid it all out. He's like, I think you're crazy, but sure. It's like, okay. So that's kind of how this first place came about. And I'll pause there, see if you have any questions, and we can go kind of deeper into the acquisition of it.
Yeah, I do. So I think you did the investing right, and I'm going to explain. This is why I believe you did. When you already have like the acquisition of a properties, a lot of people get stuck on that. You already had the home, and I think it's smart. And in fact, this is what I believe is one of the best strategies: is you buy a house, you move yourself in, or you move your family, and you live there for a year, and then you move out and you rent that place out, and then you just do that year after year, which I think is one of the best. It's a slow way to build, but it's a fantastic way to build. But secondly, that thought process of thinking I could do it, putting yourself in a position where you're almost forced to in a way. And when I say forced, I mean like you're taking a rookie camp and like you have that energy to build, you had your camera on, like you had that energy flowing in you. And I think this is an important process here is that when you're around an environment like that, you've heard me talk about this in class where, where Tony Robbins says the same thing, where your thoughts go, energy flows. Like if you start thinking, I can do this, I'm around other people that are doing it, your thoughts now go to the positive aspects of where you're at in your business. And I believe if you are a negative thinker and you think, I can't find the places, nobody's going to want to rent my house. Your friend told you about Airbnb and you were like, I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to do it. Guess what you're going to see? All the negative things of the reasons why you can't do that specific thing. And you'll start to see those because that's what you're focused on, right? And I think that, well, I know you now and I know you personally, so I know you have that driven mindset of moving forward. In that process at all, when you were starting to look for that property in North Carolina, were you stuck at all? Like we'll get into the whole purchasing the next property, but were you stuck in anywhere in that process as far as mindset goes or anything of that nature?
Yeah, big time. So doing it from afar is one thing. So California to North Carolina, I had to really trust in my realtor who I found on Bigger Pockets. She ended up being great and, taking videos and like showing me all around these different places, but getting that fear gremlin, you heard me talk about this at the summit, getting that fear gremlin to shut up was really hard. But what helps me with when you get stuck with who do I think I am or how do I know this is the right decision is action. There is nothing else that can get me, I'll speak for myself, over that fear than actually doing something. Be that.
Right.
Calling somebody, like one of my favorite hacks is calling the people or like messaging people on Furnish Finder that have places in the area to say, hey, are you willing to talk to me? And most of them don't read their messages and they'll write back to you, oh, my place is booked. I'm like, I know, I'm trying to talk to you. Yeah. So, but to call them and like get them on the phone and say, hey, how is it going there? How much do you charge? And you can tell when people don't want to talk to you and that's okay.
Yeah.
But talking to people and being on, so I was on the boot camp and saying, who else is in North Carolina? Who else has done a house hack? What do you think about this? So actually taking action and talking to people. Another hack that I loved doing my first one, which I think is gold, is contacting property managers in the area. They want your business. So they will talk to you all day. And I didn't know that I probably wasn't going to use a property manager. Like I didn't know. And maybe at some point I will. Right now with the prices, I don't know, but maybe. But at the time, I really didn't know. So you ask them about the area, about the schools, about how much people are charging, about do they do linen services? And they give you so many pearls that you didn't even think about. Now, right furiously as they're talking to me. But the stuckness kind of fades away and you get out of that like analysis paralysis fear when you talk to people and just peel away those what ifs.
Yeah, you said a couple things that I really want to hit on. I wrote them down. I'm looking at it right now. Realtor, super important. If you guys are investing out of state, just like Emily, California, she had a property in California. I was looking at North Carolina. If you don't have a realtor that's able to drive by, take video of the neighborhood, walk into the house, see if there's anything that's functionally wrong with this, send you video, talk to you on the phone, talk to you about maintenance people that are there, contractors, all those kinds of things. You want to make sure that you have that. And that it almost gives you that safety net that you're like, oh, this realtor is watching out for me. And a lot of people have a bad perception of realtors, including myself, because I've had a few realtors that are not good at all. But there are some out there that are freaking phenomenal that will, they're investor agents that want to work with you because most investors will buy one home. And guess what they're doing afterward? They're going to buy two, they're going to buy three, four. in those markets. So you mentioned that, which I think is a really good tip for people that are looking at that. And then the property manager thing, that is exactly what I do. I'll same thing you did. I'll call. I'll say, hey, I have a property that I'm looking at getting rented. I'm actually an out-of-state investor. I want somebody to manage it for me. And like, what does this area look like? What do we expect for rent? What is the low? What is the high? And I know we can go on Rentometer and all these places to look what you want to gather that information, but you also want to talk to somebody local, boots on the ground, that knows that market better than you ever will, and has a different position than that realtor does. Because now you're getting two different types of information, two different types of ideals that you can think from, and they're giving you two different perspectives on their own specific type of environment they're used to working in. And I think those two things together are fantastic, which is exactly what you did. So cool. Do you have anything to add to that before we move on to the acquisition of that property?
Yeah, I think when you're getting your first place, it's so important. Like, you want to talk about it to everybody, but watch who you do that with, because there's going to be people, especially if you have a full-time job, because people are going to have these perceived ideas that you're not going to be working at your job as much because you're looking at other homes, or they're going to have this underlying jealousy or just this angst towards you that you don't need. You don't need people that don't understand to be giving you advice. If you're afraid and people don't know this world, they're just going to make you more afraid. They're going to feed your gremlins all day long. Talk to an investor who will say, yeah, you might fall on your face once or twice, but the end result is that you have grown and that you are definitely better than you were when you started. So just watch who you talk to, because they could have like an underlying about it, and you don't need that.
An even bigger hack to that is, don't take advice from somebody that's not in a position where you want to be, whether that's 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, or that's already been there, done that, because the people that are giving you this advice most likely have not done what you're wanting to do. So they don't see your greatness that you have in your own mind yet. They're too close. They don't understand it. They don't also see where they're not in between your ears. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how you understand. They don't know how you're watching and listening to all these things and understanding the market to a different degree. But yeah, totally agree with that. I think those are really, really important things, especially as a newbie investor. Okay, so let's go into the second part of this. So you're investing in the property. You got, your realtor has already mentioned to you, we got this place. You're going to house hack in North Carolina. You're going to move from California to North Carolina blindly, right? Except for the video that she happened to put together, because you were taking an assignment over in that market, I'm assuming, right?
I work remotely. So I have a vendor that's here. And so when I asked my job, like, hey, is it cool if I move my tax home and my real home to North Carolina? They're like, I don't know why, but sure. Yeah.
Got it. So that was cool. You were good on that end. Okay. So what is that like? You started running numbers. You started obviously seeing, let's break down like what the cost of this was, what you were doing that was important in order for you to get to that position there, that you were able to move. Like, what were the hurdles there getting that first investment?
Yeah. So hurdles are, never did a midterm rental, had to get my personal house up and running. I'm like, it's already furnished. It's good. So you understand, turning a home into a rental there's a lot of steps to that. And I messed up a lot. I used a lot of the same sheets that were there. I had, just not understanding the amount of plates and bowls and all of those things that you need to be able to house enough people. So again, what did I do? Just researched it, went online. You're going to get differing views. You make what work for you. So got my place ready in California, and then realized, oh my God, I need heads and beds quickly. I'm moving into one side. I need to move to this duplex and get both of them set up, because I need to live in one side, and get the other one set up as quickly as humanly possible. This place was already flipped, so I didn't need to do any renovations, which was lovely for a first investment property, in my opinion. But at the time, I was pulling my hair out because I had to furnish and get both of these places ready.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was crazy. And I found you during this time on YouTube and just everything that was online. So I was like feverishly listening and downloading your lists and checking things off. I'm like, he knows what he's talking about. I'm just going to do this. So my one site that we were staying in, that my husband and I were living in, we had a room dedicated to boxes. Mm-hmm. Boxes. It actually might have been this room. It was like floor to ceiling boxes, trying to get
after both moving, like getting all the furniture, all the stuff. You just threw boxes in that one room. Yeah, I remember those days.
Oh my God. And so this is a duplex, and they're side by side. Think of like almost like a townhome, like they're two-story. So I wish we had drone footage that was watching me go from front door to side door to front door to side door, because it's just
Yeah.
getting one side up and running and trying to live in the other side. It was a struggle. I had, again, the fear of, I need to get people in here as fast as humanly possible. We did it in 2 weeks.
And that's fast, because sometimes it takes quite a bit to go get furniture delivered. And yeah, for anybody that hasn't set up a unit yet, do your first one. You will have fun, but then you'll realize how consuming it is, both mentally, physically, and every other type of consuming that is involved with that. And I think it's rewarding when you're done. I think it's most rewarding when you get your first tenant in there. So let's talk about that for a second. So you got your California place rented. Did you get it rented?
That was pretty quick and easy. That actually was too easy, because we're like, this is nothing. We had this awesome woman come, this woman in her 60s who she was basically like, yeah, I just want to spend some time in Southern California. She had just sold her house. Listen to this, Jesse. Yeah. She had just sold her house, and she's like, what if I pay you for 6 months up front?
Wow. Sure.
Like, am I a candid camera? Yes.
Candid camera.
Yeah. That shows my age.
Is this America's Funniest Videos?
Yeah, really. So I looked at my husband, and she was on speakerphone. I was like, yes, I think that would work out just fine. Would you like to use Zelle right now?
Cash or check card? Which would you take?
Exactly. I have a Square on my phone. Let's do it. But she was super easy. And so that felt really good. And then getting somebody into the property here, I think this came from your suggestions, even before I was in the mentorship, of course, but to be putting it on the OTAs, the online travel agencies. If people don't know what that means, I didn't either. That's what that means.
Which is like Airbnb and Vrbo and Furnish Finder, all that stuff.
Yeah. Even before you're ready. So we took pictures. This is what it's going to look like. Reach out. And Furnish Finder was our first go. And it was awesome. Except that they had 3 cats. Never again will I do that. It was fine, thank goodness, but we learned a very good lesson. So we are dog friendly. We are no longer cat friendly. I love all animals, but not in my rentals.
Got it. Let's ask why, because I've always been I like cats. Do I want to live with cats? Not necessarily. Do I want tenants with cats? Not necessarily. But there was a statistic that Brian Payne at the first midterm rental summit talked about. He put it up on stage. I don't think you were at the first summit. I don't think we met then, but he said that 30% of listings on Furnish Finder only allow pets. So there's like this huge opportunity there. Yeah. And that when I say pets, he was talking about cats and dogs. Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry. He was talking about just about dogs and not cats. I'm curious to what that percentage would be with cats, but I've been in a position where it has not been favorable. Can you talk about what the cats did in the property and what that turnover potentially looked like in the home?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we're green, right? Completely green. And this guy's coming to do a walkthrough, and he's great. It's him and his wife and his daughter, who they're just like, right out of like a Norman Rockwell painting. Like, they're just wonderful. And he's like, oh, and by the way, is it cool that we have 3 cats? My husband and I are like, yeah. Because he was ready to pay like what I wanted, and it was the first one. And they left, and my husband's like, what are we doing? I'm like, I don't know. So he came, he had his 3 cats, and the cats, thank goodness, were fine. They didn't pee on anything. They did make an absolute hairy mess of the entire place. So we had carpet upstairs at the time. We obviously do not anymore. Jesse's seeing my video, but we had carpets upstairs at the time, and the couch was just covered. So there's a few things of why I will not. Even though these cats didn't pee everywhere, there's a few things why I won't, even if they're good cats. Number one, you never know if they're going to be good cats, if they're going to spray. Okay.
I don't know if there's good cats, actually. I don't think that's real.
No, they don't care about humans. They don't. So
cats want to eat people. Okay. Yes. Just so you guys know, they think about eating you all the time. I look at my cat all the time, and I know she's wondering, when is this guy going to sleep, or when is he going to die so I can eat his face? That's exactly.
But dogs, no, they're just straight from heaven.
Dogs aren't going to eat your face, Emily.
No, they won't. They're wonderful. I love dogs. But anyway, so You have to get deep cleaning when you have cats. No questions asked. So
100%.
dogs, if they're like hypoallergenic, yes, you do the normal cleaning, you're good. Cats, no matter what, you're doing a deep cleaning, you're paying for somebody that does carpet cleaning to carpet clean your couch and all
Yeah.
your upholstery and your rugs and your carpets. Everything needs to be deep cleaned. People
Mm-hmm.
have allergies to cats a lot more often. I've had people on Furnish Finder, Jesse, I would love to know if you've heard this too. They'll reach out and say, I see you're pet friendly. I am massively allergic to cats. Have you
Yeah.
allowed cats? Like, straight question.
Yes. Yeah, I've had that
So,
asked to me plenty of times too.
yeah. So that's another thing. The deep cleaning, allergies, and some of them will spray. If
Mm-hmm.
cats spray your stuff, you need to throw it out.
Yeah,
Like,
it's gone. It's trash.
it's gone.
Yep.
It's
You can't
gone.
do anything with it.
No.
It's completely done. I think there's one thing about like meeting people too. Like you obviously were, I don't know if you were well, that was actually your duplex, right? The one you were
Yeah.
living next to. So you got a chance to meet them and you can kind of fill them out and
Yes.
you can kind of see like what kind of people they are. And you make assumptions based off the people, what kind of pets they're going to have, which
Yeah.
unfortunately that's not a good example of what the people are going to, just because they look nice doesn't mean their cats are going to be filing their nails in the outside and, smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes outside and wearing tiny helmets in the house. It's not going to happen, right? At all.
It's so
So I
true.
think that's an important piece of the puzzle. But yeah, you're absolutely right. For anybody that's looking at hosting any pet at all, definitely with cats, you're going to have to. It's something you have to think about, which is always why I like say make sure to put wood in the property. Like have carpet is hard in general. Plus it's dirty. Like we just ripped up the carpet in this room that you guys are, my new room. I had this carpet in here for probably like 8 years. And when we tore it up, Emily, my
Oh,
God, what was underneath that was nasty. So,
no.
yeah, I got wood now and my cat can run around in here and do whatever. It's hopefully not spray, which she doesn't spray, but yeah, that's a good suggestion there.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get your first client and your second client? So the California client sounds like an easy one. You got that probably from Airbnb.
I actually got her she came to us through Zillow.
Wow. Okay, cool. Smart move.
This is actually a good segue into the California place. We have an HOA there.
Mm,
And at the time, the HOA was 3-month minimum, which isn't terrible.
yeah.
She wanted 6 months, which we were very happy about. So she came to us there, so we were able to do the whole lease and everything to satisfy our HOA. We pressed on our HOA to say, we see in the CC&Rs, which is just the fancy way of saying the condo rules or the townhome rules, that it's 3 months. Is that still true? And they said, oh, actually, it's a month. And we were like, can you send us that in writing? And so they did. So it's month to month. I will say, when you are part of an HOA, be very careful.
What's up, guys? As you know, I have a mentorship called AirVenture Academy, which is actually a community that has been building and thriving in the midterm rental space. And what I love about it is watching people go from not really understanding the midterm model to actually growing a successful business that doesn't rely on Airbnb. So if you're stuck, if you're in a position of wanting to learn how to build a successful business and make over $10,000 a month with just a couple properties, I can teach you how to do that. Many other people have been taught and are building successful businesses. If you want to learn how to do this, there's going to be a link down below. Jump on and get on a call with my team. I'd love to help you get there. And now we're back to the episode.
The HOA runs your life.
I agree. It's the government, basically. They're their own little government.
They hold our financial current life in their hands. So if they were to say, Emily, your tenants are terrible, you can no longer do this. My California house is definitely where we're making the bulk of our money because it's close to the water. We have equity in that place, so our payment is low. If they were to shut us down, we would be hurting for sure. And so you handle your HOA with kid gloves. You try to get on that board, do the most that you can, go above and beyond, again, back to hospitality, go above and beyond the people that take care of you. And ultimately they do. They're taking care of a bit of our financial life right now.
Right. I've always steered away from HOAs, but I've had, students like yourself and other people, and actually other investors that I know too, that buy in HOAs because they're a lot cheaper to buy than a single family home. Essentially, you're getting somewhere for somebody to live, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
structure. But I was always nervous of the HOAs because I live in an HOA and we have people that drive by and they take pictures of the tree and say it's not 6 feet tall, you got to cut it, or you have a pot outside without a plant in it, we're going to charge you $150 and they'll take pictures of
Oh
it.
my God.
But it's totally different when you have tenants that are in the home because the neighbors, and this is one of the biggest suggestions that I'll have, and I got a question for you guys, is that the students that I've had in the past and people that I know that invest have always said that the neighbors are the people that will actually complain the most about anything. So they're looking out the windows, they're saying like Emily's, 302 whatever is making problems, or she's had a new tenant in there every month, and they're the ones that actually complain and call, to the HOA. So I always steered away from them. So would you tell people now that HOAs would be a good option, even with a 90-day minimum?
I would say if you have an HOA, I personally would not buy my next investment property with an HOA. It just so happened that we lived in that place, so we really didn't have a choice there. If say you're in my situation where you want to make your first house your investment property to start, or if you're just going for one, you need to just do your due diligence a little bit extra and talk to these people. You can Airbnb and Furnish Finder, you can talk to people directly, but if you're getting them through the online travel agencies, you find a way to talk to those human beings and get a lease, because then they have to do a background check. That is my suggestion. It seems like a pain in the butt up front, but let me tell you, the pain in the butt that you would get if you don't do that, at least you did your due diligence and you can show your HOA, who, by the way, is going to ask you for a lease anyway. They don't like online travel. Like, they will not allow. And if you go behind their back, they're going to shut you down. And that would be your fault. And I have heard that they can charge you daily when you break the CCNRs.
Yeah, we had a student about 2 years ago that was on Airbnb, and the HOA would actually go online and look at that city and see what properties were in that HOA and then find them. And they were also fined $1,000 per day that they were listed, which is freaking crazy. That's kind of like what cities do with, like New York does that. If you're online, they'll charge you per day, which then goes back to like, is a condo a good investment? Is a condo a good midterm rental or short-term rental investment? I think that's up to the person. You got to really get in there and look at the CCNRs, just like you mentioned earlier. You got to look at the bylaws of that property. You got to talk to them and say, hey, like, I actually might want to Airbnb this. Is this a problem? If they say yes, to be like, okay, well, my secondary option, what I also want to do is rent to travel nurses or whatever and so on that are typically 90 days or 30 days. Do you allow 30-day minimums? But you said something that was important too, like get on the board, and maybe people don't have that kind of time to do that. But at the end of the day, you're not able to dictate anything that goes on with that. So it's almost like you're operating with the blindfold on because you never know what can change. In fact, I've actually had students that have had 30-day minimums, and during the time of them renting the place out, they changed from 30 days to 6-month leases. So now they had to completely redo their entire structure. They had to actually, this guy, his name was Peter, had to get rid of his property, and it was in Missouri somewhere. He had to sell it at a loss because he's like, this is what I want to do. I don't want a long-term rent because people just thrash the place up, and it's just something I don't want to do anymore. It was in a C plus minus, right in between that kind of space, basic C environment. He's like, it just doesn't work for me anymore. It's not going to make sense. I don't want to just make $100 from a long-term rental. So yeah, be super thoughtful on that, because I think this is something good. If you're going to take anything out of this episode, that right there is gold, because you got to be thoughtful. And this is coming from somebody that owns, Emily owns a condo, which is, I think, is your best performing asset, but also like, the rules with that place now. You get it.
I know the rules. And like I said, I live there and I know the president of the HOA. I call her, I send her a text monthly. We good? Anything? Please tell me.
Good.
We good. Because, I don't need it. And she can be the one, like, she's my eyes and ears to say like, oh, well, Mary's getting a little annoyed that the dog poop's still on the back, whatever. Like, please tell me so I can get right on top of that. And if they ask to extend, no, thank you. Like, I have eyes and ears on these people. So I am not, I don't have cameras watching their every move, but I do know if like what's going on at my property, and it's just the right thing to do. There's neighbors right there. It's a small townhome complex, and I care about these people. I lived with them for 7+ years. So again, hospitality. It's not just your people that are there. It's the people that are surrounding them. And if they're annoyed, guess what? Your business is going down.
Yeah, and here's a hack too for everybody now. If you're getting a rental property or a midterm or short term, whatever it is, and you're physically at the place, go buy some bottles of wine, knock on those doors, and be super transparent. Say, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's been approved already. These are the clients that I'm getting. Hopefully, you're midterm renting. You're saying, hey, my clients are travel nurses, business travelers, families who've lost their home. And you don't mention Airbnb at all because people will automatically have that stigma what the media gives you of how negative midterm or Airbnbs are. So you want to steer away from that, but also like talk about, serving the community. We're working with people that are in the hospitals. If that's truly what you're doing, then talk about it. Tell your neighbors, give that wine, give them your card, give them your number, and say, hey, if there's anything that you ever see that's suspicious or doesn't work here, please give me a call. I promise you that people love that. They might not be happy with the idea, but they love the fact that you're going out there to be able to, you're humbling yourself by saying, here's what we're doing. You're being transparent and they know what's happening. I've always found that to be, not only reasonable for them, but also I think in fact, I just had a video that you watched online on my Instagram. Somebody broke into my property. My neighbor across the street called me before my team even saw it. So like people know, like they're watching out, they're looking out for you in ways, and you got to be transparent. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just a
And
hack
give them
for
your
sure.
number. Give them your number. The more you go above and beyond, I think for your people that are the neighbors that aren't in your place, but the more you go above and beyond, the less they'll call you too. And I think the same is for tenants from the beginning. Every
That's
time
true.
I onboard, and I don't know your situation with this, but it's always that there's that increased communication rate in the beginning. Hey, do you have Keurig? I don't know how to work this. Where's the whatever? So if you're very open in the beginning and set your boundaries of, I actually like to set my time boundaries too. Like these are my office hours. Of course, you can, send me an email after, but I set the precedent. Our communication up front, yes, let's communicate. But then I get to a certain point and I say, okay, we're communicate through email. I'm available for emergencies. But the more available that you are, the more they realize, okay, I can trust this person, and then it fades away. If you are like nowhere to be found from the beginning, they're like bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, I agree to that. I definitely agree. Stay present, stay in front of them. And here's another hack. If you have somebody complain about something or say, I can't figure out how to do this, we have this with our smart thermostats all the time. Make a video, like literally just create a YouTube video or record it on your phone. Keurig, here's how you use it. 3 easy steps. You start with this, you go do this. Because if you can't find a process for that, then like people are going to complain about the same things. I don't know how to do this. If one person doesn't know how to do it, trust me, you're going to have other people. So it's really important to like put videos together and just small things like that, which Emily, I don't know if you're doing already, but super helpful. That's just something I learned from property management for these different properties that have different things in them. And there's little quirks to these homes. And if somebody complains about it once or says, how do I do this? Document it, create a Loom video or record it, and you can send it directly to those people if they run into that problem. In fact, we even have little QR codes where if you're having a problem with the Keurig, scan this, and it's just a video that automatically will go and it'll play and like show them how to do it. So
Ooh, that's
little
a good
easy
one.
hacks that are just helpful for you folks out there. Maybe even you too, Emily.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I do Loom for like the whole house, but I'm thinking now my thermostat, sometimes people get confused at, and
People,
that can save people money. It can save you money too if they have the
yeah,
thermostat on wrong, right? So yeah,
yeah,
it's a good idea. I'll
yeah.
do those a la cartes. I love that. Thank you.
For sure. I definitely agree. Okay, cool. So let's get in. So you got unit one booked out. You had you're happy. It sounded like she was retired, just living the dream in Southern California next to the water for 6 months. Paid you cash through Zelle, which is freaking amazing. 6 months, I'll take that all day. Cha-ching. Plus you have a good tenant. And then you move over to the North Carolina. You got your Riley place. You got it furnished. You were doing both at the same time. You made that happen. You got your tenant there that had the cats, and you know now not to do the cats anymore. And now you are in a position to go to the next level. You're going to move to Colorado. And this is one of the things that I liked about you is that you're an adventure seeker. You live by the seat of your pants. You stay in a place for a while, and you're lucky because you have a job that you're able to. You get to. I always try to say I get to, or you get to. You get to travel anywhere you want. That's a luxury to have. And now you're looking in Colorado. So let's talk about this because we had chatted in class a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, yes, we just went under contract on this place, and now I'm finding out before we got on this that fell out. So do you want to talk about that deal that you were working on
Yeah.
over there?
So real estate is about wins and losses, and I definitely have a loss, but it's a lesson, and we're still moving forward. So within the duplex, because we do like to travel and we do like to hike and camp and everything, we Airbnb'd our side on the weekends too. So that gave me a little hint into how to short term, which was very interesting too, and taught me how to clean a place and try to save a little money that way. So that was fun. It's not fun to put all your stuff away when you are going away on the weekends and lock it into closets, but got our feet wet with short-term rentals. So that's been great, and a little extra money on the side. And then we are now wanting to go back to Colorado. I say that because we lived in Colorado. I did a travel nurse stint there with my husband when we were early, I guess, in our relationship, but we loved it, and we still have friends that are out there. So he is a photographer. He does a lot of Western stuff, and he's been itching to get back there. He is like a kid in a candy store lately because we are going back. So I started looking into Colorado, and Colorado, for any of you that know, is getting very expensive. Colorado is California like 15 years ago. Like there are parts, Denver is, are you kidding? It's getting up there. So we are looking anywhere, Denver all the way up to around Boulder. And we found a spot, and what they do in Colorado, there's a lot of these mid to late 70s places that are big homes, 4 to 5 bedroom homes. And people do what's called split hacking. So it's not a duplex. Mm-hmm. It is a single family home that you're basically adding an attached ADU. So an additional dwelling unit, but it's a DU, dwelling unit, into your house. So a lot of these have basements, finished basements. Maybe they have one garden level, ground level, and then one subterranean like bedroom. But they're adding them as second entrances, completely separate. Like you're on the same water meter and electric, but it's a different apartment. Like there's a key and everything there. So they call it split hacking, in that we would live in the upstairs and the kitchen, and then you build this dwelling unit, like mother-in-law unit, in the home. Mm-hmm. Great. Exciting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's interesting. I've actually had a lot of people that I've connected to that are like, we're gonna looking into Colorado, and I was like, oh, what's in Colorado? But it's actually some of the tech industry is moving out there, and it has been for the last several years. It's been one of those markets that's continuing to grow, and it's not even Boulder. It's like even outside of Boulder, little outskirts of certain areas. So that's really cool. So a lot of the property there, you're saying, is multi-level?
Yeah, there's a lot of finished basements, and people that are making these into these additional dwellings within their home. So you have to be careful, of course, because you want to make sure that it's permitted, because you never want to get shut down. Like when you put a kitchen into a place, you want to make sure that that's actually permitted, because if there was ever an issue, you're screwed if you didn't do it right. So just, PSA there. Yeah. But so we're looking into this place. We found an awesome one, and I went under contract, and I had my calendar of when everything was going to happen, and looking at the this will be our first renovation. So I was like, oh, this is a little scary. I squirrel my money away. Like every paycheck I get, I squirrel away like 50% of it, because I'm getting ready for this.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, all right, I can put like 45, 50,000 max into this place. Yeah. So I send one of my buddies, and I was like, what do you think? He works with a GC. And he's like, and I didn't tell him my number. He's like, I'm thinking right around 40, 50. I'm like, awesome. Great.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's go under contract. So I went under contract. Everything was looking good. Inspection came back. Inspection looked good. And then the appraisal was due. Mm-hmm. And it was a little gray as to if the earnest money, which is the money that you put down to tell the seller that you're really wanting to buy the house, it was a little gray when the earnest money was due. Like the timeline to say you're moving forward or not, which means what's that?
How many days did they have the earnest money? Like 7?
It was like 12 business days.
12 business days. Okay.
So yeah, but it was a little gray. So appraisal was due. Doing all the paperwork in the back end, and that's daunting. There's a lot happening while I'm trying to work. And so I go, before I pay for this appraisal, let's send your GC out. Just do a consult. Just give me a list what he thinks. So he goes out, and it's not GC prices. It's prices that my buddy would do with his subs, like not GC prices, which are basically like double, just for everyone's knowledge. Double what my friend thought.
Yeah.
And guess what?
What?
It was past when the earnest money was due.
Oh my gosh.
So I lost, everyone here, $6,500 on
Mm.
not learning. It is on me. It is no one's fault. It is a lesson that I am taking as I just paid $6,500 for a
Mhm.
mentorship that I learned so much. And I'm lucky because I squirrel away my money and this doesn't affect my day to day. My
Mhm.
poor realtor was like, "Oh my God, does this mean that you're not going to move forward?" I'm like, "No, we're good. We're still going to go, but I'm going to send that GC. You better believe it before I do anything."
Yeah. So that $6,500 you had, that was your due diligence point where you have to get everybody, there's an inspection list that you got to go out and do, which is, the appraisal. You go out and do your due diligence. Is this place going to work for me? You're making sure that you're capable of handling it. What is that? The lender's looking at stuff. So you really have time in between to kind of do those things. I've gotten to the point before where I was like at the very last day, it was cut off. In fact, we were getting ready to lose it. And really it's really up to the client if they're willing to work with you on that.
I know. I
So
tried.
so it sucks that they were just kind of like, yeah, whatever, like you didn't meet this period and whatever and whatnot. But this is also where an agent can kind of see where things are happening and ask for an extension earlier, which is kind of leads me. I'm not saying your agent's messed up there, but
I know.
that spot right there is like the agent has to see what's happening, knowing what's going on, and ask for that extension before that end period happens.
I know.
Super important. So,
Yeah,
okay,
I
so you
learned
learned that
there.
lesson, $6,500 lesson. Let's ask this real quick before we move on. What are you looking at when you're buying a product? Like, how are you running numbers? How are you making sure this is going to work for it? Because you're going to be you're living in one unit, you're house hacking the other. We got your GC friend out. And I was actually going to say, usually if I think my project's going to cost 50,000, I will add 20-30% on top of what I
Yeah.
actually think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's learning a hard lesson myself as well. I think real estate's learning a lot of lessons, but obviously it was why you're listening to this. So you guys can budget these things in ahead of time.
Right.
How are you running numbers to make sure that this property is going to cash flow for you? I'm assuming hopefully it cash flows. If not, you're living for free because you're basically house hacking the property, which I think is one of the best ways if you're able and you're willing to do that, where you have a tenant or two and on the other units and you're getting to live essentially for free. I mean, who doesn't want that? I think that's pretty awesome. But can you tell us like what you're like the top two, like what you're doing to make sure the properties are going to make sense for you as an investment, how you're running those numbers? And you said you're looking for multi-unit property. So I guess we have that, but talk to us about your number running process.
Yes. So I'm looking at these multi-units. So it really, for me, is something that I can absolutely live in. So you mentioned, is it cash flowing? It will
Mm-hmm.
cash flow if both of those sides are full. So I figured that out by really scouring. I don't pay for anything right now. Like there's a lot of different platforms that you can pay for to look these things up, AirDNA. Like I do everything that's free. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of Zillow, lots of Furnish Finder, looking at all the places in the area. When you're on these places, filtering down to exactly what it is that you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And meaning bedroom, bathroom count, looking at the availability on Airbnb. How often are these places full? Do you think that there's going to be a lot of vacancy? Another thing I do, I trust people more than I trust these sites. So like I said, I reach out on Furnish Finder, some on Zillow too, to say, you have this place that I see you rent. What are you getting for it? So to understand what these people are doing. So I run numbers, but I also run phone calls. Like I talk to multiple people a day. Like I will put that in my calendar as this is when I'm reaching out to people. And 80% of the time, they're not answering or calling me back, but I get
Yeah.
those people that do. So I do like the free AirDNA type of running of numbers. And then I have a calculator that we talk about on AirVenture
Mm-hmm.
mentorship, of course, that everybody has been really generous in kind of looking at these numbers together. And I use my community. Hey guys, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is going to be, we're living in one side, somebody is renting out the other. When you say live for free, it's offsetting our mortgage, but the
Mm-hmm.
whole house isn't being rented. We are living in one side of it. I go for highly appreciating areas.
Me
So I
too.
love California. Raleigh is highly appreciating. Like
Totally.
Google and Apple moved in here. That's why I bought this place.
Yeah.
Colorado. It's insane. These places I'm looking at sold 2 years ago for $250,000 less. Like, oh my gosh. Like the places I'm looking are not cheap. Like Raleigh is doable, but they are growing. And so that's really important to me. Now I am conservative as heck and put in a lot. I am. Jesse's laughing because he knows. I put in a lot of, basically the worst case scenario when I run my numbers of
Yeah.
vacancy, of maintenance costs, capital expenditures if something were to
Yeah.
happen. AC, the air conditioner is going to go. So things
Mhm.
are going to happen. So when I run my numbers, I do them very conservatively. Find a quick calculator that works and don't overthink it. Just do it often in the area you're looking, and it will start to make sense. It seems daunting at first, and then you just keep plugging in the numbers and plugging in the numbers and researching what insurance is in the area, researching all of the non-negotiables, and going from there.
I love that. No, that's super. That's the way to do it. I feel like, you just dropped something right now that I think is super important for everybody to think about. And this is what I do too. If you're going to invest in a market, pick up the phone and dial those other investors up. There's people that don't want to talk to you, but there's people that like love. There's
Yeah,
chatty Cathys out there that want to talk about their investments. They're excited about it. They talk about the money they come in, they're bringing in. I think this is one thing for me, and Emily, you know about this because you're in the community, but those people are not your enemies. They are your allies. If you get a referral that somebody doesn't like your home, you're able to pass that referral off to them. And I think that's such an important conversation to have, to say like, hey, I'm part of this mentorship. Like, I mean, you are obviously part of the mentorship, but other people, like, I'm building a network of communicators and operators that are in this space. I don't want you to look at me as competition. Rather, I'm an ally to you because I connect with A, B, and C companies, and not everybody's going to like my house. And maybe I might connect with, 10 people and they might need more housing. And, I'd love to have you as, a counterpart of my business where I'm going to help you obviously get your place booked, and I'll do it for free or whatever it is that you're going to charge. But also, like, I just want to have a connection with you because there's something that can be helpful for both of us.
yeah,
And I think that's a powerful way to look at it because, the short-term rental space, nobody's really doing that. Nobody's really talking about those things. Nobody's really, researching with each other. And there's not really that connectivity with one another like there is in the midterm rental space, which I think, again, is why I love it so much, is because you can have people that are in your market that can help serve you, and you're able to help serve them. And it's this, the law of reciprocity, right? You're able to give and they give back. And it's such a powerful thing to do, but you have to get uncomfortable. If you're not somebody who likes talking to people, you got to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm Emily, or I'm Joe Schmo, and I see that you have a property here. I want to learn a little bit how you're operating your business. Like, I'm doing this from remote. I'm coming into these markets. Like, I want to be an advocate for your property as well. Like, and this is something I'm not fluffing about. In fact, in the next year, I promised you that I'll send you a referral to some degree because I know it's going to come to me.
yeah,
And really building that out. So, and it sounds like you're doing something very similar to that already, which I think is powerful
yeah.
to do.
You know what, though? I say that on my conversation. I really love the idea of when I'm reaching out to these people, even like sending them a message. Like I mentioned, they don't really read it. But if I say something like, hey, I want to be a part of this community and this can come back to you. If I have vacancy, of course, I want, if I'm full, I would love to pay it forward or something. That gets
Mm-hmm.
people's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Or like, you're learning stuff in a different way. Like, you're probably going to get more leads than the regular person.
Right.
So I need to make sure that I get these leads to these people. So I think that it's a powerful thing to do. This is also a negative too, because I've had people that I've talked to that are like, hey, my place isn't booked. Like, do you have anybody? And you just say like, hey, like, this is what I do. I'm reaching out, but it's not always coming around. So Emily, I think this has been a super, this is almost like an out of state investing 101 kind of conversation that we had today. Because I do believe there's a lot of investors that are just trying to figure stuff out. They're trying to make sure that they, that they understand the market, and that point of where they're wanting to give up and not being around the right people or not having the right conversation. What would you say to yourself if you had the ability to talk to yourself back then when you're investing in your first property, and you were saying like, I'm gonna invest in this place, and you started to get that doubt in your head, or that doubt from your significant other. It sounds like your husband's been really helpful for you, but maybe not him, but maybe like some of your coworkers and stuff that were like, Emily, this is stupid. If you had the ability to talk to yourself then, like, what would you say to walk you through yourself to get to the position where you felt comfortable in doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think trust your gut. So trust your knowing, and if anybody listens to Glennon Doyle, that's something that is stuck with me. Your gut is going to tell you a lot of different things, and it's going to tell you fear sometimes, but you're going to know underneath it all that you're made for something different, and that's more nagging and more annoying than that fear. And so for me, again, If I could go back, I wish I had done it sooner. And I really do. And what held me back was not taking action. So as soon as I took action, and that's what I would tell myself, take action, find something, learn more, and talk to people that have done it before. That's it. Very simple. Strip away all of the other things. Your fears are fine. That's great. I mean, we are evolutionized, if that's a word, to fear. Like, we're supposed to fear because it's keeping us safe. We would all just run into traffic like dogs if we didn't, like, that's why we're human, because our bodies say, don't do that. That's uncomfortable. But if you stay there, then you're going to stay where you are. And if you're happy where you are, fantastic. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. If you're not, there's something on the other side of the fear.
Totally agree. 100%. I think you're absolutely right on that. And I feel like you know, the action stuff is so powerful. It's such a cliche thing to say, just do something. Like, I mean, that's why Nike has the best slogan on the planet Earth. Like, I think Nike has the best messaging on just do it. Like, literally, that's it. Like, period. Full stop. Right, Emily? Like, there's nothing else to it. Well, where can folks find you at, Emily? If they wanted to reach out to you or connect with you or ask you about your experiences, where can folks find you on the ground? And talk about your company real quick, which talk about that real quick as well.
Yeah. So I definitely did what people say to not do in the beginning. I was like, I want a logo and a website. So I did that pretty quickly because I have an awesome brother-in-law who does websites. But Reef to Ridgeline. So think my husband likes the mountains. I like the water. So Reef to ridgeline.com. And you can find me on Instagram at mchammer310, EMC Hammer310. I'd love to connect with you there.
Awesome. Well, there it is, folks. Emily, investing out of state, had her property in California, decided to jump ship, head over to North Carolina, and is now jumping ship and heading over to Colorado, which I think is pretty awesome. In 1 year, you're able to do these 2 moves, which I think is freaking phenomenal. You're bringing cash flow in, you're making things happen, you're building something of significance, and you're learning a hell of a lot on the way as you do it. And it seems like you're having a lot of fun doing it too. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Emily. I've loved watching you grow in this space. And just like at the end of every episode, I have a song that I like to play. And I'm not going to play it for you right now, Emily. This is a song that's going to play after I talk. I usually like to play music that I actually really enjoy because I'm a big music nerd. This song that you guys are going to be hearing is going to be called Wildorado. It's a band called Wildorado, and the song is called Take Some Time, which is the opposite of what Emily's doing because she's moving fast. Emily, you've been awesome. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Jesse. Thank you. You're
very welcome. Thank you for listening to the JV Podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.